What's going on, everyone? So we are still in the waiting game in regards to Christian Wood, Bismack Biyombo. What are the Lakers going to do with that 14th roster spot? What center, or I guess power forward or center, are you going to bring in? Obviously, if you can bring in Christian Wood, that's kind of the one exception, just because of his abilities and what he can do on the basketball court. A lot of talks about him heading to Lakers. We'll see if that ends up becoming a thing. If not, Bismack Biyombo, I think, is a great consolation prize, I guess. Him defensively would kind of round out the roster. It'd be really nice to get that shot blocker. My only concern with him is he's undersized at 6'8", but he does have like a ridiculous 7'6" wingspan, is known as a legit shot blocker. You add him next to Anthony Davis, good luck trying to score on the interior, right? That defense would be just great on the interior. But regardless, whether we get these guys or not, especially if you get Christian Wood, you really could use another center as like your, I guess, fourth big. But the Lakers, based on what they've said, want to play Anthony Davis at the 4 spot more frequently, and they want him to kind of get the opportunity to be at the 4 and not have to bang as much as he has been as of late. And Anthony Davis wants that. Obviously, that's something he's expressed openly and publicly countless times. And on top of that, he will very likely be closing games at center, right? Especially close games. If it's kind of within gap and the Lakers are in a good spot, or even if they're like losing by a good spot, then maybe AD doesn't play the 5 to close games. But I think most games you'll see Anthony Davis close at the 5, especially come the playoffs. He'll probably close at the 5. But what you need is a center that can come in that's not going to be too demanding, that's going to be willing to accept whatever role is asked of him, right? If he's going to play 30 minutes one night, cool, ready to go. If he's going to play 10 minutes, if he's not going to play at all, he's not going to gripe about it. He's going to come in, accept his role, and be ready to go. And one guy that's on the market that I've seen many people throw out there, and we've even talked about him in the past, especially during the season, which I'm actually a little surprised the Lakers didn't go and acquire him, but the Milwaukee Bucks did, and that is Meyers Leonard. Now, Meyers Leonard is still only 31 years old. He's 7'1". He's got good athleticism, good size. He's got great wingspan, and he is a legit stretch type of big. This is a guy that can shoot the 3 ball. He's a career 39% 3-point shooter. Even for Milwaukee, he shot just under 39% on 2 attempts per game. He shot 38.9. The previous time he played with Miami, which was back in 2020, 2021, he shot just under 43% on 2.5 attempts per game. So this is a guy that is a legit stretch big, guy that could play alongside Anthony Davis, that could play alongside others, give some good size, some good length. He also is a guy that can, he's not great defensively. He's not a guy that's going to lock down the paint, lock down the interior, and block shots, but he is a big body that can absolutely bang with these bigger centers. And he's a guy that's going to come in, accept his role, and play his role, right? Like, that's important as well, right? You need a guy that's willing to come in and do what is necessary for the team and for the roster. He, again, 7 foot, 7'1". He's 260 pounds, so he's solid. He's durable. He's a guy that's not going to get pushed around very lightly, and he's a guy that's going to do the dirty work. I don't hate the idea of Meyers Leonard, especially if he's like our 15th roster spot, right? Our 15th spot, if you can find a guy that is playable, that's really good. I mean, think of like most teams and their 15th guy, right? It's a guy that very likely is never going to see the court, or they're a development guy, or they're just some project guy that, hey, maybe we can give him a shot, maybe we won't. Some teams don't even really carry a 15th guy. So you could imagine that Meyers Leonard, being the Lakers' 15th man, would add some real value. He's a guy that's not going to rock the boat. He's had an interesting past, right? I'm not going to get too much into what he did, but he wasn't out of the league because of just injuries or just because he couldn't play. And he did what he did. He apologized for it. He corrected it. He made his mistake. And the Milwaukee Bucks were the team that gave him an opportunity. And he was solid for them in the limited time that he played. This isn't a guy that played the full season for them, but he was a guy that was actually sought after by many teams. He only played 9 games for them total. He did play 13 minutes for them. And he gave them 5 points, 3 rebounds. Again, shot just under 40% from 3 or 39% from 3. If you can bring in another 38, 39% three-point shooter, that's pretty good, right? Even if you're like just a shooter, just to have a shooter on the court, period, right? Like you could put him alongside, say, like a Rui Hachimura, Torian Prince, D'Angelo Russell, and Austin Reeves. Now, that might not be the best unit defensively, but all 5 of them can basically shoot the 3 ball, spread the floor. Like it just gives you different looks, right? It gives you different just options out there on the basketball court. And that's what is really good about this Lakers roster. You can go big, right? Especially if you bring in a Meyers Leonard. Meyers Leonard could also, if you wanted to, because his ability to stretch the floor, you could even experiment a little bit with him at the 4, see what that looks like, right? As like a stretch big, and see if he, can him and Jackson Hayes work out. I'm not saying play them 30 minutes together or anything like that, but the point of the early season, especially with this Lakers roster, because you're not gonna have to worry about this Lakers roster going 2-10 and being terrible, right? This Lakers roster is good enough to weather storms. So Darvin Ham can kind of work and try to figure out, like, okay, how does this lineup work? How does this unit work? How do these guys work together? How do these two look together? Like I said, you could play him alongside a Rui. You could play him alongside LeBron. You could play him alongside Anthony Davis and go really big and have 2 legit 7-footers down in the paint. And now, if you were to bring him in, he would have a full offseason, full training camp, a full preseason, and a full regular season to just continue to improve on his game, continue to improve on his conditioning, get ready for on-court type of play. This is a guy that could give you 50-plus minutes a game. This is a guy that, is not that far removed from being a starter on the 2019-2020 championship, or, well, not championship, but finals, when they played the Lakers in the championship. He played 51 games for them, started 49, played 20 minutes per game for them. Again, not a guy that's going to stand out and just jump off the page. He's not a guy that's going to come in and give you 20 and 30 a game, but he's not going to be a huge focal point, right? He's not a guy that's going to demand the ball, that's going to be on the court, that's like, I need my touches. I need 10 shots per game. Otherwise, like, this isn't going to work type thing, right? Even with Miami that year, in his 20 minutes, he was only getting 5 attempts per game. He shot 50% from the field. Like I said, he shot 41.4% from 3. He shot 62.3% from 2-point range, which is really good. And he had an EFG of 62.2. That is fantastic. That is super efficient, super effective. Gave them 6 points, 5 rebounds. That's all you need, especially from your 15th man. If you can bring him in sparing minutes here and there randomly throughout the course of the regular season, and then even in the playoffs, right? You have a guy who's is an experienced vet, who has been there, who has played in big games, who has been part of the grind when you're talking about just being in the playoffs and, being in big game situations and big game moments, right? Like, he played in the playoffs for Portland on 6 years that he was there. He was in all of them and played in pretty much all the games that they played in those series. The one where they went to, I think it was the Western Conference Finals, he played in all of them and averaged 15 and a half minutes per game that year. Again, Miami, when they went and they went on their run in 2019, 2020. This was a guy that still played on the court. He wasn't as big of a factor, right, as he was then, but he did still average 5 points and like 2.5 rebounds in 10 minutes per game as opposed to 20. So my point is, and the reason I'm highlighting this is because this is a guy that's been in the finals. This is a guy that has been in the playoffs. This is a guy that, you can trust to deliver in games, right? A big concern is, yes, you have Anthony Davis and you have Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes is very solid, right? He's a very good pick and roll defensive big. He can do a lot of really good things. He shoots like 70% on that little floater that he does in the paint, a little hook shot or whatever. But he's 23 years old and he's inexperienced in those moments. In a game, game 6, closeout game, or game 7, things are on the line, right? Like, you can go to a guy like Meyers Leonard who can play some quality minutes, who's going to do the dirty work, who's going to do the hustle plays, who's going to, sacrifice his body and do what is necessary for the team in order to try to win. And he has a chip on his shoulder and he wants to prove himself, right? You're signing him to a non-guaranteed deal. You're signing him to, something that is so low risk, high reward. If it works out and he's great, perfect, right? If it doesn't, then no big deal. He becomes a guy that you can waive, a guy that you can use his salary in a contract, right? Like, or in a trade. Like, there's several options that the Lakers would have as far as like unloading Meyers Leonard if need be, right? It's not something that you'd be stuck with, that you'd be married to, where it's like, man, like, this just isn't working. He's not going to rock the boat. He's not going to be a bad locker room guy. I mean, and I think he's an option whether you get Christian Wood and Biz regardless. Because you got to keep in mind, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are probably going to miss 20 plus games this year, right? Hopefully not together. Hopefully it's spread it out. But you have a guy, let's say you do get Biz, right? Okay, now you have Biz and Jackson Hayes. When Anthony Davis is out, you could use a Meyers Leonard in those moments, in those games, right? Like, that would just be a guy that could be there and just be an able body. I don't hate the idea. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Like Meyers Leonard? Do you not? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.